Cedar Rapids, I know he's the one. Please welcome Barack Obama.
How's it going, Cedar Rapids? Oh, I am fired up. Ready to go. Woo! I am fired up. Now, you know you've got a good program when I'm the third best speaker. I am just trying to keep up with these two. You know, I like strong women. I was raised by strong women, and I like strong women. That's right. That's right. Let me begin by thanking my rock, the love of my life, my wife, Michelle. During the course of this campaign, many things have been revealed. And one of them is Michelle's better than I am. She talks better, she looks better, she's on time. But she puts up with me. Give her a round of applause for putting up with me. I'm grateful. I'm grateful, honey. Thank you. And then there's this woman with a funny name. How does that feel, having a funny name? I sent Oprah an email last night because we were starting to get word of what these crowds were starting to look like. I said, I guess you're sort of popular. Who knew? Who knew? Well, in fact, you knew, because nobody is as tapped in to the lives of the American people, and nobody gives voice to our hopes and our dreams anywhere in our media as effectively as this wonderful woman, a great friend, somebody who I am so honored to have here today. Give it up for Ms. Oprah Winfrey. We love Oprah. Love her. We love Oprah. I remember the first time Michelle and I were on the show, my communications director and I were standing there, and we watched her walk out into her audience, and everybody was, ah! And my communications director turned to me and he said, if she told our wives to kill us. There'd be blood running in the streets. That's power. Love Oprah. We love Oprah. And I love and you know what else I love? Here's one of my favorite things. Iowa. I love Iowa. I love Iowa. You know, all during the summer and the fall, when everybody was saying, I don't know, Obama's way down in the polls. He can't win. And we were just traveling around Iowa. And everybody was missing the story. Because the people of Iowa, not only have you extended to Michelle and myself your warmth and your hospitality and your friendship, but you've been paying attention. You have been actually listening to the debates that have been taking place. You don't let somebody else tell you who's it and who's not. And because you have your own minds, you know, it has been just a pleasure to campaign here, although, you know, the weather's kind of like Chicago. But I love Iowa, and I'm grateful to Iowa. And because of Iowa, we might just win this thing. We might just win. Who knew? Oh, we might just pull this thing off. We might shock the world. There you go, okay. Now, part of the reason that it's been so exciting is we've been seeing such huge crowds all across Iowa. Everywhere we go. I mean, we had, 10,000 people in Iowa City and 7,000 in Ames and 4,500 in Davenport. And what's been inspiring has not just been the size of the crowds, but the makeup of the crowds. Because you see people from all walks of life. You've got young folks and old folks. You've got blacks, whites, Hispanics, Asians, disabled, Native Americans, gays, straight, you name it, we got it in our rallies. You've got Democrats and independents, and yes, you even have some Republicans. I know this. I know this because they whisper to me when I'm shaking hands afterwards. They say, Barack, I'm a Republican, but I support you. And I say, thank you. Why are we whispering? Now, here's the reason why people are paying such close attention. For one thing, they understand that next year they will be going into the polling place and selecting the next president of the United States of America. And they know that the name George W. Bush will not be on the ballot. The name of my cousin, Dick Cheney, will not be on the ballot. That was really embarrassing when that news was released. You know, when they do the genealogical thing, you want to be like related to Alexander the Great or Dr. King or Oprah. You don't want to find out you were related to Dick Cheney. But I'm reminded, everybody's got a crazy uncle, somewhere. Everybody's got that black sheep in the family. But his name won't be on the ballot. The era of Scooter Libby justice and Brownie incompetence and Karl Rove politics will finally be over. But when you go and caucus on January 3rd, and by the way, I assume all of you will be going to caucus on January 3rd, if y'all can come out on a night like tonight to see Oprah, you can go on January 3rd to select the next leader of the free world. You can do it. But when you go into caucus on January 3rd, and when you go in to the voting booth next November, you're going to have a question to ask yourself. And that is, what's next for America? Because we are in a defining moment in our history. Oprah referred to it. You can feel it. We've got this window that doesn't open that often. Maybe once a generation. We're in a defining moment right now. Our nation's at war. The planet is in peril. The dream that so many generations fought for feels like it's slowly slipping away. You know in your own lives you're working harder for less. You've never paid more for health care or college or gas at the pump. It's harder to save. It's harder to retire. And the worst thing is, you've lost trust that your leaders can or will do anything about it. You don't believe they actually hear you. You don't believe that they know what's going on in your lives. And no wonder that you feel that way. I mean, think about it. We were promised compassionate conservatism, but got Katrina and wiretaps instead. We were promised a uniter and got a president who couldn't even lead the half of the country that voted for him. We were promised a more efficient and more ethical Washington, and instead have a Washington that's more corrupt and more wasteful than it was before. And the only mission that was ever accomplished was using fear and falsehood to take this country into a war that should have never been authorized and should have never been waged. It's because of these failures that all of America is listening intently to what we have to say in this election. Not just Democrats, but independents and Republicans who also have lost trust in government and want to believe again. And that's why this is a moment not just of great challenge, but also of great opportunity, because things have been shaken up. Our politics is up for grabs. People are asking themselves, I want something different. And we have a chance, like we haven't had in a long time, to come together and finally tackle some of the problems that George Bush may have made far worse, but were festering long before George Bush took office. We haven't just been talking about health care since George Bush took office. We've been talking about it for decades now, through Democratic and Republican administrations, and we haven't done anything about it. And it's time we started doing something about it. We've been talking about the energy crisis, at least since 1973. And yet, year after year, the only thing that's changed is more imported oil and higher prices at the pump. We know what the problems are. We've been talking about them again and again. This is a moment where we might actually forge a working majority to do something about it. And that's why it's so important for me not to run a conventional textbook Washington campaign, to do things differently. Avoiding answering tough questions because the answers might not be popular just won't do in this moment that we're in. Telling the American people what we think they want to hear instead of what they need to hear just won't do. Not this time. Not in this election. Triangulating and poll testing positions because we're worried about what our opponents will say about us, what Mitt or Rudy or Fred or Tom or whoever might say about us. That just won't do. Not this time. Not now. If we are going to win this election, if we're going to bring about fundamental change in this nation, then we can't be timid. We can't live in fear of losing. You know, I'm a proud Democrat, but I speak not just to Democrats. I want a party that speaks to everybody. And when I think about what's best in the Democratic Party, the party of Jefferson and Jackson, Roosevelt and Kennedy, we have always led at our best. We've made the biggest difference in people's lives when we led not by polls but by principles, not by calculation but by conviction. When we summoned the entire nation around a common purpose, a higher purpose. And I am running for President of the United States because that is the kind of leadership that America needs right now. That's what America needs. We don't just need changes in policy, we need changes in leadership. We don't just need candidates who are focused on how to win. We need leadership that's focused on why we should win. We don't need change as a slogan. We need change we can believe in, real and meaningful change. That's what the American people are hungry for. And they don't expect, you don't expect government to solve all your problems. You know you have to work hard. You know you've got to look after your children. You know that trying to reach for that dream of yours is going to take some struggle. You understand that, but you know what you also believe is that if you're able and willing to work, you should be able to find a job that pays a living wage. You also believe that you shouldn't be bankrupt when you get sick, that you should be able to send your kids to a good school and send them to college, even if you're not rich, so they can aspire a little higher than you were able to aspire. That you can retire with some dignity and some respect, and you know you've got to do it on your own, but you also hope maybe government can help you knock a few barriers down on the way, on the path to your American dream. And that's not what government you've been getting lately. They don't hear you. They're not listening. And that's why I'm running to be president of the United States, because I want Washington to start listening to you once in a while and understand your dreams and your hopes. That's what we're fighting for. I'm running to tell the lobbyists that their days of setting the agenda in Washington are over. They have not funded my campaign. They will not work in my White House, and they will not drown out the voices of the American people when I'm President of the United States of America. I'm in this race to take away tax breaks from companies that are moving jobs overseas. We're going to put those tax breaks in the pockets of hard-working Americans who deserve them. And I won't be raising the minimum wage every 10 years. We're going to raise it to keep pace with inflation so American workers aren't falling further and further behind. And we're going to fight for the union movement in this country. We're going to fight to make sure that every worker has a fair shake in this country, because that's what America's about. That's what built America. That's what built the middle class. I am in this race because I'm tired, sick and tired of being sick and tired of talking about the 47 million people without health insurance. I want to start doing something about it. I know you do too. You know, this is personal for me. My mother died of ovarian cancer when she was 53 years old. And, you know, that's tragic enough. That she never knew my daughters. She never knew her grandkids. That's tragedy enough. But what I also remember is that in the last months of her life, she was not spending time thinking about getting well. She wasn't taking stock of her own mortality. She was reading insurance forms because she had just gotten a new job, and the insurance companies were saying maybe there's a pre-existing condition and maybe we don't have to reimburse you for your medical bills. I remember being so angry. You know, so I know what it's like to see a loved one suffer, not just because they're sick, but because of a broken healthcare system. And it's wrong. And that's why, as president, I'm going to make sure that every single American can get health care they can count on. And we won't wait 20 years from now or 10 years from now. We'll do it by the end of my first term as president of the United States of America. I am running because I want to make sure every child has the best education America has to offer, from the day they're born till the day they graduate from college. And that means we're going to invest in early childhood education so children are prepared the first day they start school. And that means that I won't just talk about how great teachers are, I will reward them for their greatness by giving them higher salaries and giving them more support, because my sister's a teacher. I know how hard they work. They need some help to help our children. And I don't know about you, but I think it's about time we made college affordable and accessible for every young American, because that is our future. That is an investment worth making, and we can afford to make it if we have a sense of urgency about it. I am running because I am tired of Democrats thinking that the only way to look tough on national security is to follow George Bush. You know, when I'm the Democratic Party nominee, my opponent will not be able to say that I voted for this war in Iraq because I didn't. He won't be able to say that I gave George Bush the benefit of the doubt on Iran because I haven't. Won't be able to say that I buy into the Bush-Cheney theory of diplomacy, which says you don't talk to leaders that you don't like, because I think that is wrong-headed. We've got to not just end the war in Iraq, we've got to change the mindset that got us into war in the first place. Cedar Rapids, I want to break this fever of fear, this politics of fear. It says you got to be afraid. We've got real enemies. And as President of the United States, I will do everything in my power to keep you safe. So when I end this war in Iraq, I will also finish the job in Afghanistan going after Al-Qaeda, which is where we should have been focused in the first place. They're the ones who killed 3,000 Americans. They're the ones who are still at large. We've been distracted by this politics of fear. We haven't exercised good judgment. Our young men and women have performed nobly, but their civilian leaders haven't given them the right mission. I will. But even as we maintain the strongest military on earth, even as we go after those who have vowed to kill us, we also have to recognize that there are billions of people around the world who once saw America as a bright and shining light. And they can see it again if we change our mindset. So I want to go before the world community. I want to go before the United Nations General Assembly as president and say, America is back, and we are ready to lead. We are ready to lead again. We are ready to lead again, and we are going to lead not just militarily. We are going to lead by making sure that we are building schools around the world that teach math and science instead of hatred of America. Oprah Winfrey shouldn't be the only person building a school on the other side of the world. America, we can mobilize to build schools to make sure that every child sees a future. We're going to lead by dealing with HIV/AIDS in places like sub-Saharan Africa and other diseases, not only because it's the right thing to do, but because a disease gets on a plane these days. It's right here in Cedar Rapids in about 10 hours. Our fates are inextricably linked with those beyond our shores. I want to lead by bringing an end to the genocide in Darfur, because we're not a nation that turns a blind eye to slaughter. That's not who we are. And I will close Guantanamo and restore habeas corpus, because we're not a nation that locks people up without charging them. That is not who we are, America. We need something new, something different, and that's what I intend to provide as President of the United States of America. I want to send a message to those yearning faces beyond our shores that says you matter to us. Your future is our future, and our moment is now. Iowa, our moment is now. America, our moment is now. We have to seize this moment. We got a righteous wind at our backs. I can feel it. I don't want to spend the next 4 years just having the same old arguments and not getting anything done. I don't want to pit red America against blue America. I want to be the president of the United States of America. That's what I'm running for. People ask me, well, why, you could wait for a while. And, I have to explain to them, listen, I'm not running to fulfill some long-held plans. I know one of my friends talked about me writing an essay in kindergarten. I was a smart kid, but I didn't write essays in kindergarten. I think I could write my name, Barack. I could write Mom. Tomorrow I'm going to disclose all my kindergarten papers. I will disclose that I experimented with coloring outside the lines. Yes, I did. I'm not running because I think that somehow this is owed to me. Me being here is so unlikely. Just like Oprah being where she is so unlikely. I mean, the odds of us being here You couldn't even calculate them. It is impossible. I always knew this was going to be an improbable journey because I've never been on a journey that wasn't. But nevertheless, see, I'm not thinking about the odds. That's not why I got in this race. I got in this race because of what Dr. King called the fierce urgency of now. The fierce urgency of now. Because I believe there is such a thing as being too late. And that moment is almost upon us. I don't want to wake up 4 years from now and find out that millions more Americans don't have health care because we weren't willing to take on the insurance industry. I don't want to find out that the oceans have risen a few more inches. The planet's reached the point of no return because we couldn't wean ourselves off our addiction to foreign oil. I don't want to find out that more young men are going to prison because we're not willing to invest in making sure that every child in the inner city and in rural communities have opportunity in this society. I don't want to find out that we're still harboring racial division and racial hatred. I don't want to find out that 4 years from now we've made no progress on that front. I don't want to find out that we've risked another 1,000, 10,000, 100,000 young Americans in a misguided war because nobody had the courage or the judgment to ask the tough questions before we sent our troops in to fight. I don't want to see homeless veterans on the streets. I don't want to send another generation of kids through failing schools. I don't want that future for our children. I don't want that future for your children. I don't want that future for America. That's why I'm in this race, because I believe in a different future. I'm running for the same reason that I fought on the streets of Chicago, for jobs for the jobless and hope for the homeless. The same reason that I fought for justice and equality as a civil rights attorney. Same reason I fought for Illinois families as a state senator and a United States senator, because I know the only reason I'm standing here today, the only reason Michelle is here, the only reason Oprah's here, the only reason many of us are here is because somebody, somewhere, at some point in our history, stood up when it was risky, stood up when it was hard, stood up when it wasn't popular, stood up for the union movement, stood up so women could have the right to vote, stood up for African Americans could have an equal place at the table, stood up. A few stood up, and then a few thousand stood up, and then a few million stood up. And standing up with courage and conviction, we changed America. Now's our time to stand up and create a new America. That's why I'm in it. That's why you need to stand with me. And if you stand with me and caucus with me, we will not only change America, but we will change the world. God bless you, Cedar Rapids.